Okay, hey, this week's episode, we're going to meet with Dave Wieczorek and check out all the stuff he's been up to and learn some history on him. Okay, hey, we're back here with Dave Wieczorek. We've had a couple episodes. We've talked about the first truck and the second truck. So now we're going to talk about number 3. He built number 3. Most of you are familiar with number 3 because that's the one that was on the TNT circuit, primarily the ones that everybody's seen all the time. So tell us about building that truck. Where did you really start on that, and how did you... By then you'd learned a lot. So tell us a little bit about what you learned and how you developed a different, style there.
Well, I guess the biggest thing we learned was suspension, just being able to control them, because they always had a bad hop and bounce, with the springs. We still stayed with leaf springs, but we went with a little longer one and flatter to keep it so it would land better. And then kind of distributed the weight a little bit better on it, put the batteries further back to the back and try to get as much to the back as we could.
Now, did that one still have a steel cab on it too?
It did, yep.
Okay.
Yep, steel cab, and then the front was fiberglass. It was I think at that time was Concept fiberglass out of Tennessee.
Okay.
The extended front.
And that truck always had a real low stance to it too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it did, because we kind of set the body down on the frame. As far as frame height, it was basically the same height as basically the other ones. But
now, did you have a special deal with House of Color for the paint or something?
No.
Okay, because you always had that beautiful candy red on it.
Yeah.
Did you have a background in painting, or how did you come about that?
Just in the automotive industry. I mean, I've always done a lot of automotive repairs and painting. Just kind of graduated myself into the painting part. I had a couple good friends that painted cars. So the first one we painted over in his shop. I didn't have a paint booth or anything like that. So we used his place to paint it. And actually we painted all of them except for Thriller in in his paint booth. But a lot of time. It takes a lot of time.
Now did you have a blower motor in the other one, number 2 or anything?
They all had blower motors.
Oh, they all did. Okay.
Except for when we changed it to Thriller. Thriller was just a naturally aspirated. It didn't have a blower.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about, when you did number 3, I'm sure you upped the horsepower on that.
We did. Actually, number 3, I had Mark Brown out of Salina, Kansas, built that motor. It was a 427. And actually, Scott had referenced me. He had a motor built by him. So Scott Stevens, I guess, is who I'm talking about. Had a motor built by him, and actually it's like, man, if Scott can't tear it up, I don't know if I can either. So I got a hold of him, and he wasn't like 3 hours from our place, so we went down and talked to him, and I had him build me a motor, and so that's what we put in 3, was a 427.
Okay. Now, did that one have probably turbo 400?
Turbo 400, and it had an SCS, or a profab
case in it.
Yeah.
Now, what for axles did you run on that one?
Those were 5 tons with planetaries.
Okay.
The 106s hadn't come out yet.
Okay.
So we got 5 ton with planetaries, and knock on wood, I'd never knocked an end off. So
doing good.
I think we broke a couple axles through that course of time, but that was really about it. They were pretty bulletproof.
So tell us a little bit about that TNT deal. That kept you pretty busy year round, didn't it?
It did. The winter series, which January, February, March, you were doing races all over the U.S. And then they had after you got done with the winter series, then you went into summer, and so then you started with the New York mini series, and just traveling all over New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania.
Now you guys were kind of almost the same group of guys every weekend, weren't you?
Yeah. They had 12. The basic 12, and then not every weekend you could have all 12. And there's a lot of times they ran 2. Tours the same weekend. So it would split everybody up a little bit, but they pretty much, anybody that was trying to stay in the points, they kind of tried to keep them together.
Okay.
There's Dennis, Bigfoot, and USA One, Gary with Carolina Crusher, myself, Bennett Clark, John with No Problem, John Kwasniewski, and then, well, there's several others that were involved in that. But yeah.
So what was, you had some pretty exciting times running on that tour. What's some of the highlights maybe that you remember?
It was a lot of fun, and it was, it was picking up pace. Just, it was amazing how fast we were starting to go, and everybody was realizing that, leaf springs weren't the ticket. Foot at the time had come out with their cantilever suspension with the shocks. And well, then you had Jack WIldman with Taurus. I mean, he had the Fox shocks, I think, I'm not sure on it. But so everybody was looking at that. It's like, wow, that's the way to go, So yeah, just a lot of changes in the suspension and speed. It really picked up fast. I mean, every year it's like if you didn't upgrade your truck, you weren't going to be competitive.
So some of the highlights, I know you were there and seen some of the crashes and things like that. Tell us a little bit about some of those things.
Oh, yeah, I've seen some pretty wild ones. Chicago, I probably the one that really comes to mind is when we were racing in Chicago inside, and it was this pretty small arena, and Rod had, well, he was always wide open, had hit the end several times and just actually punched he hit enough times where he actually got through the wall, punched through the wall there at the building there. And that was, I mean, every time he raced, it seemed like he hit the wall.
Really?
So, it was bricks everywhere,
Oh, boy.
building people. And but yeah, that was one memorable moment for sure. And then probably some of the other ones would have been, and I'm going to use Rod again, racing him. Saginaw, Michigan comes to mind, racing him, and I was behind. He was ahead of me, obviously, and just watching him lose control and tumble his truck in front of you while you're going like, whoa, that had to hurt. Oh yeah, I could just like, man, I hate to make that call to Everett.
So Everett wasn't with him on
No, he had, there's, I think Steve was with him.
Okay.
And there was another guy, but I can't remember his name offhand. But yeah, crew guy.
Now, did you go home much during those tours, or did you stay out on the
road?
road?
Not a lot. We spent a lot of time on the road. At that time, a lot of for me, my wife and kids went with me at the time.
Okay.
And we'd go on the road until they started school. And then during the summer, they would. My girls are monster truckaholics, so they would want to go on the road. So we.
Well, and they're still kind of involved.
Well, they are. Yep. They still like it. They still enjoy it.
So your one daughter married a
Aaron,
pretty famous,
Aaron Basil. Yep.
Pretty famous monster truck driver.
Wonderful son-in-law for sure. Couldn't ask for a better person.
So that's pretty cool. So now, about when was it that you decided you were done with the monster truck world? Because you sold number 3 to
Wayne
Spozanic, which turned it into Tropical Thunder.
Yeah, and that was just by chance thing. We just happened to be at the MTRA banquet, and we were sitting at the table, and Wayne and a guy that was with him sat there, and I can't remember who else was sitting at the table, but we were just talking, and he didn't have a monster truck at the time. And so we were just talking, and it's like, well, so what brings you, to the MTRA banquet? He's like, oh, I want to check it out. I come up here to check out one of Fred Schaefer's trucks, and I was like, wow. I said, man, I'd probably sell you one for quite a bit less than what Fred would want for his. But so I kind of shot my mouth off there a little bit. And so we just, didn't pay no mind to it. And so it was probably about a week and a half later, Wayne called me and asked me if I was serious. And it's like, well, at the time I was actually building Galactron. Because we had the merger between TNT and United States Hot Rod, and I was looking for something to kind of subsidize to help pay to race, basically, because the fee wasn't as great as what they said it was going to be for racing. So to kind of subsidize the racing part, I thought it's like, well, I'll just add that, and then I'll be able I can make some money and afford to race the truck. And when you have a family, you gotta keep the income coming in. Yeah. I started on Galactron, and then Wayne called, and I thought about it, and it's like, I'd sell you 3.
So about what year would that have been?
That would have been 91. Yeah, 90 or 91 actually. It was fall of 91.
So I think this is a good time to stop. We're going to talk about robots on the next episode.